Thank you very much, Carmen. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, because I know there's at least one other lady besides myself on the call. I really appreciate your time today. We'll have a full hour with our special guest, who I'll introduce shortly. But I also wanted to let you know that we have a few other people from Team FITE today. We have our social media guru, Joel Arkin, also known as Eagle Eye. And we have our Chief Operating Officer, probably no stranger to any of you here, Mr. Mike Weber. And myself, I'm Kim Hurwitz, so if I have not met you, I'm sure I will be speaking with you more in the future. I'm only 6 months in here at FITE as Chief Marketing Officer, but long in the world in combat sports and formerly at Karate Combat, Direct TV, et cetera, et cetera. So thank you very much. We very much look forward to getting your questions. But let me also introduce, so he can say hello, our superstar, our guest, and a wrestler extraordinaire, Mr. Nick Aldis with NWA. Nick, say hello, please.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me.
Great. Mike or Joel, do you want to say something? And
I'll take it real quick here. This is a great event we're talking about today. NWA Into The Fire. It's exclusively on FITE this Saturday. Real excited about having Nick joining us here. Nick is in the main event with James Storm, as most of you guys know, and has been instrumental in NWA going to the next level right now. The event has got great buzz going about it, and we're going to keep that going, and we hope all of you have a chance to tune in this Saturday. From there, I'm going to turn it back to Kim, and let's start doing some questions, Kim.
Great. Well, I'm going to feel that, Joel, you're the one who is kind of our voice on social media, and I know you really know this field, and you're personally a huge fan of Mr. Nick Aldis. So why don't you kick us off for a question, and then we'll start taking questions from our media clientele here.
Absolutely. Thanks, Kim. Nick, my question to you is, obviously last night on social media, the NWA released the first match with James Storm that you had at the beginning of the year at the pop-up event, the New Year's Clash. My question to you is, how can you make adjustments? You have a 2 out of 3 falls match coming up this weekend. What adjustments do you need to make to ensure that you leave on Saturday at NWA Into The Fire as still the NWA champion with the 10 pounds of gold?
I don't know if it's so much about adjustments as just, preparation. I mean, honestly, the 2 out of 3 falls matches have been good to me. Many people remember that I regained the World Championship over a year ago at NWA 70, our first standalone pay-per-view event in a 2 out of 3 falls match with Cody Rhodes. So for me, the great premise of the 2 out of 3 falls is the fact that it eliminates excuses, and it seems to me that in the lead up to this, James has had a lot of excuses. He's had a lot of conspiracies about how he's been treated, and honestly, I don't really see the validity in any of those arguments. I see a guy who had an opportunity with us after I'd done the groundwork to build this organization, and he had a run with the national title, and he lost that title to Colt Cabana, and he's making noise about being the world champion, and I think that, for me, 2 out of 3 falls makes it where, look, anyone can get lucky with 1 fall, and James is claiming that, about different issues with that first match. Anyone who saw it saw what happened. It may have ended in a count out. Who knows? But it didn't. And if anything, when Billy Corgan decided to make it to where there must be a winner, that's only benefiting the challenger because, as has always been in this business, the burden is on the challenger to beat the champion, not the other way around if he wants to take the title. So when it comes to this 2 out of 3 falls, my conditioning is better than ever, and as I've proven over and over again, the best thing about being the world champion is that you have a range of opponents, at the top level, and I've proven myself at every opportunity opportunity. Every single challenger that's come my way, hostile territory or not, I've proven why the NWA is where it's at, and you're looking at it. It's me, as the world champion.
Great answer. I would love to get some questions. Anyone have something in particular they would like to ask concerning this weekend?
You have a
How
question.
about you, Jim Barcelona? You were like from Miami Herald. You were our first person to come online. Do you have a question for Nick?
Thank you very much. Nick, how have you seen the business change? I mean, see with FITE TV and what they're doing, just some of the things that have changed in the business, whether it be in ring or even out of the ring, and these different ways that wrestlers can be seen and viewed. How do you view the changes over the years?
I think that I think that we've seen one of the healthiest shifts in pro wrestling over the last sort of 3 or 4 years. That's really been, in terms of historically, it's probably one of the healthiest shifts we've had in decades. And what I mean by that is that, the WWE has a huge monopoly, and with that comes a lot of power over the talent, and ultimately, to me, this business is built on strong personalities and guys who can get people to part with their money, be it at the box office or on a pay-per-view event. By having outlets like FITE TV, it has created a situation where guys who truly believe in who they are and what they can deliver no longer have to wait until they maybe get an opportunity with the big company to be able to showcase what they can do, and then have like 20 different people tinker with them, to see if they can sell box office, and who really knows who's doing what at that point. With outlets like FITE TV, you get the opportunity for real maverick performers to be able to go out and say, hey, I think people are going to be willing to pay to see Nick Aldis versus Marti, or Nick Aldis versus James Storm, or this guy versus that guy. And because of the, it's honestly, it's really about the ease of access, and it's a real game changer, because now guys can really bet on themselves, and obviously that's a phrase that's been thrown around quite a bit, and with good reason, with examples like the Young Bucks and Cody, setting that example, and Marti, and then obviously myself. I was the true main event of All In, and that the reason that event was called All In was because it was about guys betting on themselves, and that's really what this is about. And this is just further proof, because the NWA has created a situation where, with a small operating budget, without, and it's really just a true belief in what they can deliver and their concept and their brand, we've been able to make a big footprint in the industry in a relatively short period of time without a giant budget.
May I have a follow-up question, please?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I noticed, too, when you come out very well dressed, you're the world champion. What are your thoughts of how you carry yourself when you're on a program, on a show, on a wrestling event? And what are your thoughts of NWA Powerrr and that different type of element that is bringing to us?
Look, Scott Hall said it to me once, and I'm sure he said it in interviews too. In my opinion, it's pro wrestling, right? Emphasis on pro. Okay, if I want people to part with their money to see me perform again, whether it be at the box office or whether it be on a pay-per-view, then I should be willing to go the extra mile, to make the effort, to present myself as somebody that's worth paying for. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. It's not about pretending to be rich or pretending to be a star or pretending to be something I'm not. It's about conducting myself as a professional.
Hey, Daddy.
Well, that's Carmen. There's several people in queue. You can go to Mike Johnson from PW Insider.
Right, and Mike Johnson, your line is open.
Hey, Nick. How are you, sir?
I'm good.
Good. Good to talk to you. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about on this call, talk about you mentioned building the company and the NWA brand with a very small team, very little money. Talk about what the camaraderie is like amongst that team, and what it's like having so many talents who have had chances elsewhere, like yourself, like Trevor Murdoch, like Ken Anderson, Eli Drake, etc., who have all found themselves migrating over to the NWA, and what has it meant for many of, not necessarily you, but many of them to kind of have a second chance to make a first impression with the audience by being showcased in such a different light with the studio atmosphere.
I think that's a great point. And that's really how I see it too. Because I understand that I was fortunate in many ways because I got signed early, got my foot in the door at TNA, but I wasn't really ready for the spot, and I've said this before many times. It's like there was the most important thing, in my opinion, to have longevity in this business is to have self-awareness. And I think that there was always a part of me that knew deep down that I wasn't necessarily ready to be on TV. But what are you going to do? You're not going to say, well, no, I'm not really ready. I won't take that contract. Thank you. I'll just, I'll wait. It doesn't work like that, right? Like you have to take what you can get. And I was thrown in at the deep end. And look, Terry Taylor said it to me once. He said, you're getting paid to go to college, which is true. I got paid to learn in the ring from everyone from AJ Styles to Samoa Joe to Doug Williams, and then sit under the learning tree of guys like Kevin Nash and Scott Steiner and Kurt Angle and Sting, and it's like everything I am now is basically a product of that education. It just so happens that whereas, decades previously, by the time you saw a guy like me, a seasoned pro with, in his, reaching his prime with, a lot of good experience behind him, that was the first time you saw him on TV or any sort of capacity. But my education happened on TV, so that's the main difference. So for me, I've had to work very hard to sort of break a lot of the established opinion of long-term fans who only, who had seen me from my TNA run and just kind of written me off, and they're like, he's whatever. Because I was whatever then, but it's like, again, as far as you have to believe in your perception. You can't sort of shy away from it. And once I understood that and embraced the idea that, look, Magnus is dead, that guy that you knew then is not this guy, and I've spent 2 years and, with David Lagana's help and Billy Corgan's help, have reintroduced the world to Nick Aldis. And now there's a whole new wave of fans, young and old, who are going, Nick Aldis is the real deal, Magnus who? And when it comes to the other guys and the camaraderie, there really is. Like, I've never been in a situation where you truly felt every single person, not just talent, but every single individual involved in NWA Powerrr was really on the same page and really wanted it to succeed. I don't recall a single complaint. I don't remember any gripes about, oh, I don't like what I'm doing, I don't like this, I don't like that. Everybody there was just plugged into this energy source, and it's very gratifying from a sort of professional level for me, where a lot of my peers, many of whom were in the business before I was, were deferring to me as the top guy, like take a guy like Ken Anderson or Trevor Murdoch, guys like that they've been to the big show, and yet they're coming to me and being like, what do you think, champ? Like, what, and that's, when you have the respect of your peers, that's an indication that you're on the right track, and I have that, and they have my respect, and that's the way the NWA is. It's seasoned professionals who respect one another and want everybody to succeed, and overall want the company to succeed
comes to the Into the Fire pay-per-view, obviously the build-up from the show was the NWA Powerrr studio show I mentioned earlier. Talk about how producing the studio show and actually having a week-to-week product changed maybe your perception of what the NWA could be under Billy Corgan and Dave Lagana versus every so often we're doing pop-up shows, we're partnering with other companies. How did the creation of the studio show change the perception of what the brand could potentially have for you?
Well, it's double-edged sword, I think, because obviously we always had a view to sort of graduating to that point, but we also knew that, hey, once we start doing this, like, there's no looking back. You know, people are going to expect this level of output, so now the onus is on us to be a viable business model. You know, I said this, I had a call yesterday, a media call, and I appreciate every media outlet that is looking to help us get the word out and spread the word about this pay-per-view. The pay-per-view is performing very, very well. We've already exceeded the total buys for NWA 70, which was headlined by me and Cody, and we still have days to go. And one of the things that I talked about on that call yesterday was so many fans get wrapped up in this idea that people running wrestling companies are spending 80% of their time talking about booking and creative, you know, like, hey, who should wrestle who at the next pay-per-view? And it's like, that part's easy. Like, I truly believe that most of the frustrations people have when it comes to what they see on other wrestling shows is because it's overthought. You know, like, we just listen to the audience. You know, I'm fortunate that my reinvention, as a wrestler coincided with the reinvention of the NWA and the reintroduction of the NWA as a viable brand in the professional wrestling sphere. But when it comes down to it, like, we sit back and we pay attention to the audience, and we read the feedback, good and bad, on everything, and we go, hey, people are digging Thunder Rosa. You know, people seem to love Trevor Murdoch. We didn't sit there and go, hey, this is our plan for Trevor Murdoch. He's going to do this, and he's going to do that, and then he's going to be, you know, considered, on this renaissance of his career. He did that. We just said, I got a feeling that Trevor Murdoch would be a good fit for us. And the second he walked out, you felt the people just go like, yes. You know, not like, oh my God, it's Trevor Murdoch, but like this approval of like, yes, this guy's the right guy. Like, I get that. And suddenly it's like, he takes that moment, and again, seasoned professional, knows how to maximize his minutes, and in a losing effort, shows everybody who the hell he is and reminds everyone why he's there. And that's a long-winded way of answering your question, but what we are focusing on a lot when it comes to the discussions behind the scenes of those of us who are, you know, really all in, for lack of a better term, on the NWA and trying to make it successful, is we're trying to make this thing profitable. Like, that's the thing that's the crunch for most wrestling companies is, yeah, it's great, but can you make it profitable? And I can say we are so much closer to being profitable than any of us had predicted, you know, at this stage in our life, because we're only 2 years in, you know, and Billy had a 20-year plan for this. And then we you know, with the reception that we got and the way that some of our stuff was received, and then having some fortunate happenstance like All In, and then the subsequent relationship with Ring of Honor, and then the big money matches with Marti and the rematch with Cody, and then then moving on, and then finally graduating to our own standalone show. We've had, you know, we've been able to develop a model that is much closer to being profitable than people realize. You know, we've heard a lot of industry experts or analysts, for lack of a better term, suggest that, oh, well, you know, it's not sustainable like this. And, you know, that's not necessarily true, because in many ways, like we've said from the beginning, our mantra has been a lot of the time, traditional values with a modern delivery system. Well, people who understand the history of the business know that prior to big money TV rights deals, TV was a means to promoting live events and then later on to promoting pay-per-view buys. So YouTube is our TV for now. We want to maximize the amount of eyeballs, build our fan base, cultivate it, and then convert those to pay-per-view buys and to live events and to merchandise. And like all of those areas that I just talked about are showing steady growth. So for us, like, that's the most important thing. You know, booking and talent and everything, that's easy, you know, because we've assembled a good team. Like, one thing that I will pat myself on the back for is I have a good eye for talent. You know, you can track back through my social media over the last 5, 6, 7 years and shows that I've promoted in the UK, tours that I've promoted, and you look at the lineup of the guys who I picked out, you know, prior to, you know, before they were being talked about in a wider capacity, and look how many of them have gone on to be signed by WWE or AEW or Impact or Ring of Honor and New Japan. Like, we're not concerned about that part. We know who works. We know who can help us make money. So what it comes down to is slowly building our team and assembling it and keeping this energy going, which has been just so infectious for not only the fans, but for anyone who comes to work with us, and just building on that.